could join us for 7:30 News Bulletin. My name is Fales Chizombe. The top stories. Pope Leo XIV calls for peace, echoing Pope Pius XII's historical appeal for peace. NCADCA urges transparency in the use of donor funds. Finance Ministry calls for urgent debt cancellation as Malawi's debt hits 86% of GDP. And in other news, Rwanda and DR Congo agree to sign a peace deal to end conflict. We have more stories coming up. Stay with us. Pope Leo XIV made a passionate plea for peace during his general audience on Wednesday, echoing the words of Pope Pius XII, who spoke out against war just before World War II broke out. Addressing pilgrims in St. Peter's Square, Pope Leo XIV lamented the suffering caused by conflicts in Ukraine, Iran, Israel, and Gaza, emphasizing that the Church is broken-hearted at the cry of pain rising from places devastated by war. We have a Vatican News report read by Charity Chilanga.
The Pope specifically highlighted the devastating impact of modern warfare, citing the Second Vatican Council's warning that contemporary conflicts risk unleashing savagely fast-surpassing that of former ages. He urged world leaders to reject the temptation of using powerful and sophisticated weapons, stressing that war is always a defeat. Pope Leo XIV drew inspiration from Pope Pius XII's historic radio message on August 24, 1939, as the world stood on the brink of World War II. In that message, Pius XII implored world leaders to seek peace, stating it is by the force of reason, not the force of arms, that justice makes its way. Nothing is lost with peace, or may be lost with the war. The Pope's appeal comes amid escalating tensions and violence globally, including a recent massive missile and drone attack on Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, which resulted in 23 fatalities. Pope Leo XIV's words echo those of his predecessor, Pope Francis, who often declared that war is always a defeat. By recalling Pope Pius XII's words, Pope Leo XIV aims to cast a light from the past onto the present, inviting the world to choose dialogue over destruction and peace over war. His message emphasizes the importance of courage, conscience, and commitment to pursuing peace in a world marked by growing tensions and outbreaks of violence. The Pope's heartfelt appeal serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of war and the need for leaders to prioritize diplomacy and negotiations. As the world grapples with complex conflicts, Pope Leo XIV's message resonates with renewed urgency, encouraging individuals and nations to strive for peace and understanding.
The Norwegian Church Aid, Dan Church Aid NCADCA joint country program in Malawi has called on the government and organizations implementing development projects to ensure greater transparency and accountability in the use of donor resources. NCADCA Malawi Country Director Stephen Jason warned that the persistent misuse of donor funds continues to undermine Malawi's development efforts. Jason made the remarks on Thursday during the launch meeting of a new NORAD-funded project for the 2025-2029 period. The initiative being implemented in partnership with organizations such as Sport Data, EUCHARISTIC, EAM, Megin, MAGA, CARICOM Zomba, and LUNTHA TV is designed to improve the livelihoods of communities in districts like Kalonga, Nchisi, and others. Tandem Zmara reports.
Janssen noted that Malawi's over-reliance on donor funds, coupled with the mismanagement of these resources, not only harms the country's development efforts, but also discourages potential donors from investing further. He stressed the need for accountability, transparency, and responsible implementation of development projects to ensure donor funds are effectively utilized. He also pointed out a worrying trend among some implementing organizations which prefer to host meetings in locations like Mponera Doa, mainly to secure daily subsistence allowance DSA. This practice enables participants to claim allowances while commuting daily from nearby cities such as Lilongwe, rather than fully engaging with the project's intended activities.
Funds are being used also to top up someone's salary through allowances, through sitting allowances, through whatever allowances you can find. So this created a culture that has now come to a point where donors are saying enough is enough, and we cannot use aid budgets for salaries on top on salaries being provided for the provision of aid projects. And this is a culture that we all need to fight together.
One of the implementing partners, the Evangelical Association of Malawi, EAM, through its project coordinator for fighting inequalities, Lusungu Kumwendwa Mangoji, has pledged commitment to contribute towards a more sustainable and equitable development path for Karonga and Malawi as a whole.
Have got a robust financial management system that actually provides us the controls and all the mechanisms to make sure that the funds are actually the funds are actually utilized as according to the budget. But also, as EAM, we are an organization that is not just faith-based, but we practice what we preach.
The project, scheduled to run from 2025 to 2029, will focus on key areas such as climate and environmental stewardship, economic development, food security, and efforts to combat inequality and gender-based violence in Malawi. This new initiative builds on the achievements of the 2021-2024 framework, which focused on addressing gender-based violence, reducing inequality, promoting climate-smart economic empowerment, and responding to humanitarian needs. For LUNTHA News, this is Tandiwe Mzumara.
The Chief Economist in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Wazona Likomeka, has revealed that Malawi's national debt has reached around 16 trillion kwacha, equivalent to roughly 86% of the country's gross domestic product, a level he described as alarming. Speaking during the Africa International People's Tribunal on Debt and Development, taking place on June 18th and 19th in Lilongwe, Likomeka urged the international community to consider immediate debt cancellation. He warned that the country's growing debt burden is now unsustainable and is severely limiting resources meant for critical development initiatives. Bridget Manoka reports.
Ligomeka pointed out that Malawi's debt level has significantly surpassed the recommended threshold of 60% of GDP, underscoring the country's growing fiscal vulnerability. He explained that the high cost of servicing this debt is consuming a large portion of government revenue, leaving limited resources for essential development projects such as health care, education, and infrastructure.
To service the debt. So if that debt is cancelled, that money will be channeled to other areas. Of course, we can still try to push for our own development through different initiatives. We have the ATM and M strategy. We also have the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. All these initiatives is to ensure that we develop our country, we collect as much as revenues as we can collect, and then reduce our debt burden. So, but if we get the debt cancellation, that development will happen sooner than later.
Meanwhile, Malawi Economic Justice Network Meijin Vice Board Chairperson, Reverend Innocent Jugoba, says the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank are advancing policies that contribute to the worsening of Africa's debt situation.
Several things that are happening. And sometimes you see that maybe because debt is not being paid as it was supposed to be paid, then maybe they'll stop supporting the African governments. But in the end, who is suffering? It is the common man in Africa who is suffering.
The African Forum and Network on Debt and Development Policy Officer Ashin Nazil says that between 2022 and 2026, African countries are projected to slash spending by a total of $183 billion, allocating 22 times more funds to debt repayment than to social protection programs.
So at AFREDAD, we have the African Borrowing Charter, which can give some guidance on responsible borrowing and lending principles. We have the Harare Declaration, which gives us more information about the undemocratic global governance landscape. We also have the Maputo Manifesto, which gives a feminist lens to these issues. In addition, recently we've had the African Union Debt Conference, which has led to the Lome Declaration. So this is the inaugural conference of its kind on debt in Africa, which gives us a common African position on debt. So these are African documents created by African people. For us to unlock our financial future, we have to look inward. If we want to build self-sufficiency, we have to unlock our financial future.
Malawi continues to grapple with structural weaknesses, volatile commodity prices, and economic shocks, factors that have contributed to its growing reliance on borrowing. In response, the government has introduced a domestic revenue mobilization strategy aimed at raising the tax to GDP ratio from 12% in 2021 to 17% by 2026, with the potential to reach 22% by 2028. The Africa International People's Tribunal is being held in partnership with the Malawi Economic Justice Network, MEJIN, and the Africa Forum and the Network on Debt and Development, AFRODAT. Bridget Mwanoka, LUNTHA News.
Citizens for Credible Election, CFCE, a grouping of civil society and concerned citizens, is asking the Malawi Electoral Commission Chairperson Justice Annabel Mtanimanja and Chief Executive Officer Andrew Mpesi to resign for not acting accordingly to the grievances of election stakeholders. CFCE has also organized peaceful demonstrations on 26th June, which are meant to force the two top MAC officials to resign. The grouping held a press briefing at Kwalia Garden in Lilongwe on Thursday, 19th, 2025. Gift Kalunga has more in this report.
One of the CFCE officials, Sylvester Namiwa, who is also the leader of Center for Democracy and Economic Development Initiatives, CDED, said that they want transparent and credible elections. Namiwa also said that they have organized peaceful demonstrations from Bingu National Stadium to Chisanko House. He also asked the police to protect the protesters, citing their responsibility to safeguard the lives of Malawians.
Whose interests are they acting like that? It is for this reason that we have organized nationwide demonstrations aimed at pushing them to either resign or they should be removed for failure to use the constitutional authority derived from Section 12 to win the trust of the people. We believe that if these people who continue working as it is, they are undermining the constitution. At the same time, we are not going to have a free, fair and credible election.
CFCE has also appealed to Malawians not to relent in demanding free, fair and credible electoral processes. Meanwhile, only 89 days remain before Malawians head to the polls. For LUNTHA News, this is Gift Kalonga.
You are still watching LUNTHA News with me, Fale Chizombe. A look at our top stories before we proceed. Pope Leo XIV calls for peace, echoing Pope Pius XII's historical appeal for peace. NCADCR urges transparency in use of donor funds. Finance Ministry calls for urgent debt cancellation as Malawi's debt hits 86% of GDP. And in other news, Rwanda and DR Congo agree to sign a peace deal to end conflict. Moving forward, renowned agricultural expert Kingdom Kwabata has urged the Malawi government to rethink its food security strategy by shifting focus from smallholder farmers to large-scale commercial farming if the country is to meaningfully combat the looming food crisis. Kwabata notes that Malawi needs a complete overhaul of its farming model, suggesting that instead of over-relying on millions of micro or medium-scale farmers, the government should empower a handful of true mega farmers capable of cultivating not less than 10,000 hectares each. Judy Fogani has heard this report read in our studios by Tandiwe Zumara.
Kwabata explained that managing 4 to 5 mega farms covering 40,000 to 50,000 hectares of land collectively could provide a reliable and consistent supply of maize to the national reserves far more efficiently than the current subsistence-based model. He added that climate change remains the biggest threat to food security as erratic rainfall and prolonged dry spells continue to disrupt the traditional rain-fed farming cycle. To counter this, he has called for national irrigation drive, urging government to equip farmers living near water sources with solar-powered irrigation systems to enable dry season farming and build resilience during rainy season dry spells. Kwabata also pointed out that diversification must go beyond lip service, highlighting the need to promote alternative crops like sweet potatoes, cassava, bananas, sorghum, and pumpkins alongside investments in their value addition.
A few farmers give them expansive hectareage of land with the modern equipment to grow maize for the rest of the country. That's where I think the government focus must be. If we're talking about subsidies and input programs, these mega farmers, if we are to call them, they are the ones who must be targeted. But the mega farms should not be in the form that is currently implemented now. This is a very childish approach if we want to really gain food security.
Meanwhile, Kwabata has called for serious investment in both production and processing infrastructure if Malawi is to ever reduce its overdependence on maize and achieve sustainable food security.
The Malawi Coalition for Kabaza Stakeholders Association, MAGOCASA, has raised concern over challenges affecting the voluntarily compliance window for motorcycle taxi operators. With only 9 days remaining before the deadline, many operators are struggling to meet the requirements due to a shortage of road traffic officers in some districts. According to chairperson of the Malawi Coalition for Kabaza Operators Association, Moses Marabu, the lack of these officers has greatly contributed to the low turnout of Kabaza operators in various areas. Despite these setbacks, Marabu insists that most Kabaza operators are willing and ready to register their motorcycles. Emmanuel Chocher reports.
The registration exercise aims to enhance safety on the roads of Malawi, where Kabaza-related accidents have become a major concern. Statistics shows that between 2020 and 2023, Malawi recorded 4,566 Kabaza-related accidents, resulting in 472 deaths. In the first quarter of 2025, Kabaza accidents increased by 14%, with 227 cases reportedly, compared to 200 in the same period last year.
It's true that the government gave us a chance to start legislation, and we started registration on 10 March, and it was phased way for 4 months only. That is from March to 3rd June. So as you can see that this is June, it means that we are just remaining with a few days for the government to close the window period.
Mwalabu has appealed to government to consider extending the registration period to allow more time for the operators to comply. MAGOCASA, the association, is urging its members to register their motorcycles, which will not only help them to operate their business legally, but also aid in identifying stolen motorcycles. Meanwhile, Malawi Revenue Authority, MRA, and the Road Traffic Directorate are encouraging Kabaza owners to take advantage of this ongoing special custom clearance on reduced rates before the deadline of June 30, 2025. For LUNTHA News in Lilongwe, this is Emmanuel Chuocha.
Communities living around Lake Malawi National Park in Mangochi have raised concerns over the government's failure to crack down on the sale and use of illegal fishing gear, warning that the country's variable fish resources and related economic benefits are at serious risks. Members of the Beach Village Committee at Cape Maclear, Esther Maulana, and Maiwawo Nkulula has said the widespread use of such prohibited gear is causing severe harm to aquatic life. They explained that the gear indiscriminately traps all fish regardless of size or species, posing a major threat to the ecosystem and jeopardizing the long-term future of the fishing industry. Responding to the concerns, Titus Peary, Deputy Director of Fisheries, admitted the challenges but assured that the department is committed to addressing the issue. Patrick Pupa has more in this report.
Despite their voluntary efforts to protect the park's aquatic life, including the iconic Mbuna fish, Esther Kalua and Maiwawo Nkulula believe that the government's failure to crack down on these destructive practices is undermining their work. The community members emphasize that controlling the use of these illegal gears won't be easy unless the market that supplies them is tackled, arguing that a concerted effort to reduce the flow of these gears into the market could help mitigate the problem. Ripple Africa, an organization working to protect Malawi's ecosystem, agrees that engaging fishermen has been a long-standing effort, but emphasizes that serious enforcement is now needed to ensure the country benefits from its aquatic life. Its programs manager, Sam Manda, highlights the importance of preserving the Mbuna fish and other species, not just for the local economy, but also for global significance of Lake Malawi National Park as UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Things that we are promoting is collaboration, coordination as well. We have been doing that at district level. So this is the national level, whereby we also try to bring these different departments. For your information, this project is working with 2 government departments. We are working with the Department of Fisheries as well as the Department of National Parks and Wildlife. So we want to bring them together. Because from the scoping visit that we had in 2020 before the first phase of the project, one of the things that we noticed was lack of collaboration between these departments. So when we came in, we thought, no, I think this is the high time we should bring these departments together.
Titus Peary, Deputy Director for the Department of Fisheries in the district, has however asserted that his department is working diligently to promote the conservation of ornamental fish and boost the economy through legal means. Peary insists that all activities are conducted within the bounds of the law.
Mbuna is very unique and unique indeed to Malawi. It's a fish, one of the fish species which is being exported to different parts of the world, and this assists in bringing in forex to Malawi. And apart from that, the Mbuna is very important because it's one of the wonders of the world. That's why this part is a World Heritage Site.
The Lake Malawi National Park, home to the Mbuna fish, is not only a vital part of Malawi's natural heritage, but also a globally recognized site that requires careful management to preserve its aquatic biodiversity.
And in other news, delegations from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have agreed on a draft framework aimed at resolving their long-standing conflict. Backed by the United States and Qatar, the agreement outlines plans for the disengagement, disarmament, and the conditioned integration of rebel groups operating in eastern DR Congo. The deal also proposes the establishment of a joint security mechanism to help prevent renewed clashes. A formal signing of the peace accord is anticipated next week. We have a BBC News report read by Charity Chilanga.
The deal could open the way for billions of dollars of Western investment in the mineral-rich region, which been plagued by conflict for 3 decades. However, analysts say that many questions still remain about the contents of the peace deal. The U.S. State Department said technical teams had ensured the draft text on Wednesday ahead of a formal signing ceremony next Friday to be witnessed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In a statement, it said the deal was reached during 3 days of constructive dialogue regarding political, security, and economic interests between officials of the 2 countries in Washington. The latest draft agreement builds on a previous accord signed earlier, it added. In late April, Rwanda and DR Congo signed an agreement in Washington promising to respect each other's sovereignty and come up with a draft peace deal within days. The decades-long conflict escalated earlier this year when M23 rebels, widely believed to be backed by Rwanda, seized the swaths of mineral-rich territory in eastern DR Congo. Rwanda denies supporting the M23, insisting its military presence in the region is a defensive measure against the threats posed by armed groups like the FDLR, a rebel group composed largely of ethnic Hutus linked to the 1994 Rwandan genocide. The M23 captured Goma in late January, followed by the city of Bukavu, and has since set up governing structures in the regions under its control. Thousands of people have been killed and hundreds of thousands of civilians forced from their homes in recent months following the rebel offensive.
That international news report read by Chaite Chilanga brings us to the end of our today's news bulletin. Before we leave you, a recap of our top stories. Pope Leo XIV calls for peace, echoing Pope Pius XII's historical appeal for peace. NCADCR urges transparency in use of donor funds. Finance Ministry calls for urgent debt cancellation as Malawi's debt hits 86% of GDP. And in other news, Rwanda and DR Congo agree to sign a peace deal to end conflict. I've been Fales Chizombe. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to tune in for the list of our programs here on LUNTHA Television, and goodbye.